Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. About me, I am Sandeep Bhushan Thummala and my credentials are I have 8 years of teaching experience for civil services. I teach international relations, internal security and in-depth analysis of Hindu editorials and articles. This video is in regards to how to crack prelims 2020. But prior to that, you have a notification in regards to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, which is India's largest learning platform. And once you get subscribed, you will get access to unlimited live and recorded courses from India's best educators. And also the privileges you would get once you subscribe are the daily live classes, live test and quizzes, structured courses, and unlimited access. You also have the top educators at Unacademy. They are the one who are on the screen, and the others also, which are who are the top educators who are you can see it on your screens. And you have the courses for the Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, and these are all the courses: polity, geography, current affairs, and others. Along with that, you have the governance, CSAT paper, internal security, interview preparation, and various other courses for the UPSC Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. And you have the subscription, that is UPSC CSE subscription, wherein you have 24-month subscription, wherein the original price is 48,000, and you can go ahead with subscribing using my code SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala 10. Once you subscribe using my code, you will get additional 10% off on 48,000, and the discounted price would be 43,200. So you would be paying for 13 months the amount of 13 months, but you would get subscription for 24 months. Look at the 12 months plus 1 month, that is 40 plus 8,000, 48,000. So you have the opportunity here wherein you can go ahead with using the privilege of you being paying for only 13 months, but you would be having a subscription for the entire 24 months. So take the benefit out of it. As civil services preparation, you need at least 24 months of solid preparation. So the opportunity to go ahead with paying only 13 months but subscribing for 24 months is the offer now. So do not be late. Go ahead with subscribing, and please do use my code SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala 10. And before I get into the topic, Kunal has joined, Kunal Mangraj. Hi to Kunal. Good evening to you, Kunal. And good evening, hi to everyone who have joined. And now we will get into the topic, that is in-depth analysis of editorials and articles, which is important. The reason why the analysis is important, because most of the questions, if you look at in the civil services, that is prelims and mains, you have the analytical questions, wherein the analytical questions are based on the conventional type of questions, but it would be on the contemporary issues. That is why the analysis of the Hindu newspaper, that is editorials and articles, and also contemporary issues are very, very important, and it is need of the hour for the civil servant aspirant to have a better opportunity of cracking the prelims 2020 and also scoring a very good marks, high marks in mains 2020. So definitely this session or this video will help you out in regards to how to identify the key phrases, keywords, which will be very, very useful for the prelims 2020 and mains 2020. Now we will get into the topic, that is the topics to be discussed today are livelihood versus lives. Livelihood versus lives. And then the other one is stages of transmission. And the other one is stages of transmission. So today, this is today's editorial. The heading of the editorial is Lives and Livelihood. Lives and Livelihood. So definitely this is in regards to the lives and livelihood on the backdrop of the pandemic, that is COVID-19, on the backdrop of pandemic, that is COVID-19. So definitely this editorial talks about what the government has taken measure to contain the virus or to break the spread of the transmission of the COVID-19, that is SARS-CoV-2, that is in regards to the national lockdown. But we would also look at the national lockdown was meant to have a social distancing, and also that the break of transmission of the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. But we have also seen the other side of it, or the negative impact of the national lockdown, that is in regards to the health economic crisis. We were actually going ahead with controlling or having more of controlling, or in regards to concentrating on the health crisis or the public health. But we have seen there is something which is mushrooming, that is the economic crisis. So we will look at whether lives are important or livelihoods are important. That means whether health crisis has to be taken into consideration now at this time, or whether the economic crisis has to be looked into it. So that is very important. So even Madhu has joined, I would say good evening, or good evening Madhu. And we are discussing in regards to today's editorial, which talks about the heading as lives and livelihoods. So we will look at what is the prime importance or the necessity of the government when it is gone ahead with the lockdown, and now again within couple of days the lockdown would be lifted, or whether it will not be lifted is the question mark. If it is lifted, in what conditions it will be lifted. Okay, Nikita Kumari has also joined. So I would also say good evening, Nikita. We are discussing about today's editorial, that is lives and livelihood. So we have seen, because of the national lockdown, the one which was majorly hit was the migrant laborers. You all are aware of it, because they were hit because of the manufacturing sector, production units, or many of the core sectors, or almost all the economic activities, business activities were closed down. So definitely the migrant workers were forced to move to their respective states. When they were forced to move to their respective states, that means they were unemployed. Because of the unemployment, they were moving to their respective states. So the one badly hit by the pandemic or the COVID-19, or because of the national lockdown, was the migrant workers. So now the importance or the need of the hour to focus is, when the country has gone ahead with national lockdown for the first time, so the government did not give much of time to anyone to think about it, and then they have gone ahead with national lockdown. Now the point is, how would the government look into the strategic exit, that is after the national lockdown, that is after the 3 weeks, how the government will go ahead with the looking into the strategic exit or calibrated exit, or whether it will identify the hotspots across the country, and then they will go ahead with the national lockdown in the hotspots areas. And then how they would go ahead with the strategic exit is the very important point at this time. And we have seen as the prime importance of the government to go ahead with the national lockdown was to save the lives. This is very important. No doubt the economic crisis has erupted. No doubt the economic crisis has erupted because of the national lockdown. But the prime importance, the priority of the government was to save lives. First and foremost is to save lives. And then later on, what do you say, if the health condition or the health crisis or the health system is taken into control, and if the infection is taken into control, and then the death cases are reduced, thereby we can make sure that, or the government will definitely go ahead with ensuring the livelihoods. Now before I move further, can anyone talk about, or anyone say, what is the difference between the lives and the livelihood? Because this could be a probable question, analytical in the prelims 2020 and also in regards to the mains 2020. So the heading of the editorial is livelihood and lives, or lives and livelihood. So what is the difference between livelihood and lives? Because I said the government, when it has gone ahead with the national lockdown, the prime importance was for the public health. The government was focusing on the public health. So when the government was focusing on the public health, government was very much concerned about the lives of the each and every citizen, Indian citizen. The government was very much concerned about each and every individual's lives. So now the point here is saving lives, and then you have something called as ensuring livelihood here in this, saving lives and ensuring livelihood. So now here the point or the priority, whether it is lives or livelihood, please to understand, the priority to the government is whether it is lives or livelihood. Both are important, no doubt, both are important. But what the priority is lives and then the livelihood. So what I would request you all is, what is the difference? Please do, what do you say, be part of my session, interactive session. What is the difference between lives and livelihood? I mean, do you have any idea or clue about the difference between the lives and livelihood? Please do key in. Kunal, Madhu, Nikita, and the others who have joined. What do you understand between lives and livelihood? Okay, I'll move further. What has happened is, because of the national lockdown, there was definitely a serious, because of the lockdown, there was definitely a serious damage to the economy. As the country was preparing, to handle the health crisis or to handle the public health, or focusing on the health system, the way or the amount of health infrastructure what we possess, India was going ahead with preparation to health, to go ahead with protecting the lives of the individuals. But in the midst of it, or the consequences of protecting the lives, a serious damage to the economy has taken place. Please do understand, in the midst of protecting the lives of the individual or the citizens of India, a serious damage has taken place to the economy, and livelihood is beginning to make its apparent. So when the damage is very high to the economy, that means now the government has to focus on the livelihood. Now the government has to focus, now the government has to encourage and then develop or make sure that there are more number of livelihoods being created, to make sure that the economy is not damaged further. So that is important. So in the midst of all this, it is between the lives and the livelihood, it is between the lives and the livelihood. Now the government has to think whether the life is important or the livelihood, creating the livelihood is very important. And then when we look at the first time when the national lockdown has taken place, the finance ministry has gone ahead with announcing a package, that is the COVID-19 emergency package. It was 1.7 lakh crores of rupees. And this 1.7 lakh crores of rupees was definitely a good start, but it was merely 1% of the GDP. It was, so the 1.7 lakh crores of rupees is as equivalent to the 1% of the GDP. And we have also seen, along with the finance ministry, the RBI has also infused the liquidity into the banking sector through various means. We have seen in regards to repo rates, reverse repo rate, cash reserves ratio, long term repo operations, LTRO, and then also in regards to the cash reserves ratio, and then pumping money into the banking sector. So all these together, RBI has pumped almost 3.5 percentage of the GDP into the banking sector. So RBI with 3.5 percentage, again the finance ministry with 1 percentage. So the entire amount, the economic package which was used or which was made to pump into the market was close to 1 plus 3.5, 4.5 percentage was the amount which was being pumped into the systems so that the health infrastructure is taken into consideration. So what was the necessity for the government was to pump money, not to make sure that the livelihoods would be taken care, but the first the lives would be taken care. So that 1.5 and then later on 3.5 was pumped into the market to make sure that the people will have more money, and then the money will be taken into consideration that they would be the government would be protecting the lives. So now we will look at the challenges. Before we get into the challenges, I will talk one point here. That is, as I was saying, 3.5 percentage and 1 percentage, the RBI 3.5 percentage of GDP, which has pumped into the market, and then the finance ministry 1 percentage, that is coming up to 4.5 to 5 percentage. That was almost 2 weeks back. Now this, if you look at the system, that is definitely the requirement has increased, and then if you compare this with the GDP percentage of GDP, that is health infrastructure or the health system being contributed to the total GDP. If you look at USA has 10% of its contribution of the GDP to the health infrastructure, and now US is unable to handle the situation, even though it has pumped, or even though its contribution is 10% of its GDP towards the health infrastructure. When it is unable to resolve the or contain the virus and then make sure that the infrastructure is not that required, or it is not sufficient even for the infected persons and the diagnostic test to take place. So look at the kind of, what do you say, impact which will happen to India when if it is not at least 5 to 7% of the GDP has to be. And we also have the challenges here. We will definitely look at the challenges wherein you will have a better understanding. Before that, I'll go to this here. What is all this is? This is the livelihood, the government creating the livelihood. So this is not the recent one. This is the picture of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Manrega Act, wherein the government is providing the livelihood. Please do understand here, the government is providing the livelihood to the people. Fine. And now what the government is doing in regards to the containing the virus, that is, the government is trying to take care of the lives or the public health. And now the challenges are, there are definitely a tremendous pressure because of the national lockdown. There is definitely a tremendous pressure on the national lockdown from the industries, that is all the industry bodies who are part of the manufacturing sector, service sector, or agriculture sector, secondary sector, primary sector. All these sectors, if you look at, there is tremendous pressure from the industries bodies, and they are wanting a precise policy to be taken up by the government of India. Now, because now the government of India will go ahead with the lifting or probability of lifting the lockdown, and now when the lockdown is lifted, then what could happen to the virus, that it would spread virulent, and then can be able to try to contain the virus, transmission of the virus. At the same time, when the economy is very dwindled or it is in a very damaged situation, the government has to make sure that there is economic activity, business activity to take place to protect the economy. So what would be the priority of the government and what would be the policies of the government? So the industry bodies, the Confederation of Industrial Indian Industry, CII, is wanting a precise policy to be taken up by the government of India, which will help the economic activity or the business activity to restart, so that when the business activity restarts, then definitely there would be a again the job creation. Employment would come into existence. When employment would come into existence, definitely there would be again people will have money, they will be having a confidence with the government. So the prime importance is life, but also the livelihood. Now you are getting the point. I think the importance is life, but as there is lot of damage done to the economy because of the lockdown, the industries bodies or the CII is asking the government to go ahead with a precise policy wherein the policy will look into that the business activity or the economic activity has to restart. If the economic activity is not restarting, then it will be a lot of problem onto the livelihoods. Please do understand now. If the economic activity is not restarted, then it will have a very drastic effect on the livelihood. So the government's duty is to protect the lives, at the same time provide livelihood. Please do understand this linking, and this will be your major question in regards to analytical for prelims point of view, and also in regards to mains point of view. Life versus livelihood on the backdrop of COVID-19. Comment. Life versus livelihood on the backdrop of COVID-19. Comment. So that would be a very a question wherein, until unless you understand the difference between life, livelihood, the government's priority in protecting the lives of the people, that is public health, that is the health infrastructure. At the same time, when the government is protecting the health infrastructure or the public health itself, or the each and every individual lives of the citizen, so what is the impact on the economic activity? When it is the impact on the economic activity, how will the government focus on the economic activity? That is, how will the government provide livelihood to the individuals or the citizens, so that they will also get the jobs, so that they will have an employment which will be added fuel to them, that they will get employment, they will have income, they will have savings. So if they do not have, if they do not have livelihoods, please do understand, this is very very important statement. If they do not have livelihood, then there is a possibility that you would, the one who are in the informal or unorganized sectors, and also one who are in the formal sectors, and then there could be a possibility that they would lose the jobs. So for them, those people or those families would starve because of the hunger, and they would lose their lives. Please do understand, they would lose their lives because of the hunger. Please understand this linking. Please understand this linking. If the government is unable to provide the livelihoods, when at this juncture the government is focusing on the public health, the lives of the individual, but because of the lockdown for almost 2 weeks plus, entire economic activity has come to a standstill. There are no jobs, there are no employment, thereby there is no income, there is no saving, there is no money. So when that is not there, then the government has to take a strategic exit and then come up with a precise policy, wherein the precise policy will focus on the health as well as the economic activity, wherein the precise policy of the government will focus on the lives and then the livelihood. Please do understand the linking. That is what, how the editorial has been written by the editor, and that is what the UPSC will ask you from you. It will want you from that kind of, what you say, analysis, understanding. So government's policy has to focus both on lives and livelihood. If livelihood is not created, not generated by the government, then the lives would be lost, not because of the pandemic. Please do understand, if the government is unable to provide livelihood, the lives would be lost not because of pandemic, but because of hunger, because of no jobs, because of unemployment, no income, no salary, no food, starvation, hunger, no lives. So the linking of lives versus livelihood, I suppose you all have understood now. And then English with SR has joined. I would also say hi to him. I suppose you all have understood now the what is the difference between lives and livelihood, and what should be the precise policy of the government to have a linking of lives versus livelihood, or which would take the importance, priority. I suppose you all have understood in regards to the lives versus livelihood, because it is a very very important concept, topic for the prelims and mains point of view, wherein if you do not understand, you will not be in a position to write anything about it. And now the measures are, because the national lockdown, 3 weeks national lockdown is about to finish, so definitely people will want to get into the business as usual mode. People, that is the citizens, would wish to get into the business as usual mode. Thereby, they would get onto the streets to go or to search the jobs or to get onto the jobs whoever are having their existing jobs. By that, what will happen is the importance or the essence of national lockdown, that is the social distancing, might be hampered. When it is hampered, then the infection of the coronavirus will spread at a very exponential manner. When it spreads in a very exponential in the sense at a very high rate. So when it spreads exponential, again there would be a worry in regards to the public health, protecting the lives of the people. So now what is the measures is the second round of economic relief is important. So whether they will go ahead with the total lifting of the national lockdown, or whether the government will consider a staggered exit, staggered in the sense phase wise, different phases wise, or what kind of strategy exit the government will go ahead is big question mark, or whether the government will identify the hotspots of the entire country, and those areas, that is the hotspots wherein the virus is spreading very virulent, those areas will be still continued under the national lockdown, and the other areas will be relaxed in a phased and a staggered manner, but keeping in view of the social distancing has to be maintained. Along with this, the government has to focus on the second round of economic package. So what is that second round of economic package? As I have said, comparing the India's health infrastructure, percentage of health infrastructure towards its GDP, comparing with USA. I said USA has 10 percentage and India now 1 percentage officially budget, and then the Prime Minister of India would has promised that he would increase it by 2025 to 2.5 percentage. But at this juncture, even 4 to 5 percentage is also not sufficient to handle the health crisis or to cope up the health infrastructure at the time of the pandemic like situation which India is facing now. So the second round of economic relief package has to be at least 5 percentage of GDP. Please do understand, when I'm saying this 5 percentage of GDP, that means somewhere close to 12 lakh crores of rupees. Here it is 10 lakh, but if you consider 1.7, 1.5 lakh crore is what is 1% of GDP, then it would come up to closely 12 lakh crores of rupees. And 5 percentage also, please do understand, it would be a lip smacking kind of investment which is added, or the revenue which is added to the health infrastructure. And the other one is, the measure is they have to go ahead with the cash transfer to the vulnerable sections or the poor one, wherein the cash transfer, wherein I have said in the YouTube classes that earlier the economic experts were wanting at least 1500 rupees for each vulnerable section of people who have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan accounts. But now, looking into this situation wherein the national lockdown for almost 2+ weeks, the necessity, or it is hiked to 3000 per month for next 3 months. This is what the measure, so that the condition of the individuals with having money with them would suffice. So rupees 3000 per month for the next 3 months is one of the measures. And the other one is of addition of free ration to the public distribution scheme PDS system, wherein the rationing would take place in regards to the food grains, pulses, it could be kerosene, and not only this, there has to be the free cooking gas also. As it is already announced, it should continue because it would be based on the Ujjwala Yojana. Ujjwala Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. On that scheme or under the scheme, the cooking gas can be, what do you say, delivered to the vulnerable or to the poor section by free of cost, at least for another 2 to 3 months. So that is a measure how we can try to contain the economic crisis. Please do understand, not the health, economic crisis, or the kind of livelihoods the government is unable to provide because of the lockdown. These are the measures. These are the measures what we are talking about, that the livelihood can be protected of the individuals by cash transfer, by free ration, and then cooking gas free by the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana scheme. And then you have something called as public sector banks, wherein the RBI has infused around 3.5 lakh 3.5 percentage of GDP into the public sector banks. So again, from public sector banks, it lends money to the NBFCs. NBFCs means non-banking financial corporations. NBFCs means non-banking financial corporations. So what is the measure is the lenders, that is the all the NBFCs, ILFS, that is the financial institutions. They should be granted freedom to reschedule the loan accounts. That means not only the banking or the RBI has that moratorium to go ahead with making the home loans and then personal loans, and then in regards to the car loans, that they can reschedule it. They can reschedule it. The same kind of freedom has to be granted to the NBFCs or to the lenders all, so that they can reschedule. This is important. They can reschedule the loans who are, the borrowers who have taken loans from NBFCs, not from public sector bank. Please do understand. Now the measure is that the NBFCs should be granted freedom to reschedule the loans taken by the borrowers who have, what do you say, gone ahead with taking loans not from the banks but by the NBFCs. So NBFCs have to be granted freedom. And then this, there has to be a credit guarantee collateral free. That means collateral is that without any kind of guarantee you go ahead with taking loans. You give loans without any guarantee. So collateral free, that kind of credit guarantee fund will support the delinquent in the sense the offenders or the one who is unable to pay the loans. Delinquent means, this word delinquent means the one who are offenders. Why offenders? Because of the economic crisis, they are unable to repay the loan. So to them there has to be provided a credit guarantee. Please to understand, to the delinquent or to the non-delinquent here in this case, to the non-delinquent borrowers, that means who are not offenders. Delinquent means offenders. Non-delinquent means who have been paying on time the loans. For them there has to be a credit guarantee, that is collateral free. That means without giving or without providing any guarantee, they have to be given a credit guarantee for the next 6 months. So this is one of the measures. And the other one is the bankruptcy code has to be suspended. This is very, very important for, again, the credit guarantee one, and the bankruptcy code is very, very important for the prelims analytical point of view, along with having or giving freedom to the NBFCs. Please do understand, giving freedom to the NBFCs to reschedule the loan account is very important. So three are very important in regards to the analytical for prelims 2020. Granting freedom to NBFCs, providing credit guarantee to non-delinquent borrowers, and then the bankruptcy code should be suspended for 6 months. For 6 months, at least for MSMEs, that means micro, small and medium enterprises. Micro, small and medium enterprises, the bankruptcy code should be suspended, and there has to be a GST holiday for 3 months. What is this GST holiday? That means the individuals or the business organizations or institutions have to file the GST returns. So there has to be a holiday. What does holiday mean in this aspect, economic related terms? that means there could be a kind of delay for a day or a couple of days or a week. Generally it is an holiday. That means you are giving an extension. You're lenient, I mean the government is little bit lenient on it, so there has to be a GST holiday for the next 3 months. This is a measure. So in regards to the prelims 2020 economy, please do understand, prelims 2020 economy point of view, what are the measures to go ahead with? If he is asking which among the following, there could be a freedom, I mean granting freedom to the NBFCs, and then in regards to the credit guarantee to the non-delinquent borrowers, and then bankruptcy code to be suspended for 6 months, and GST holiday for the next 3 months. These are the measures wherein the government has to take it into consideration if they wanted to save the lives, at the same time provide the livelihoods. Please do understand the way I am linking it. The government has to come up with a precise policy in regards to the strategic exit. Please do understand, in regards to the strategic exit, so that it will concentrate or focus on the lives, at the same time providing the livelihoods. And the conclusion I would make it, the crisis is now without precedent, that is without any kind of standard pattern, and the solutions cannot be conservative in the sense which are conventional type of, so who has the responsibility now? Yes, the responsibility or the onus lies on the government, and the government should take very quick decisions, and those quick decisions are the need of the hour, in regards to the government to focus both on the lives and livelihood. Now my question is whether your focus or your priority is life or lives or livelihood. Please do tell me, what is your priority? If you are a bureaucrat, or if you are a chief secretary or chief secretary, and then you have to give suggestions to your, your political boss. Livelihood. Okay, Madhu says livelihood. Is there anyone who can also go ahead with answering to my question? I mean, what is your choice? Whether it is the importance or the priority now to the government, whether, or else you feel, not government, forget about government, whether, I mean, if you are in, what would you suggest? Whether it is lives or livelihood? Nikita Kumari, English with SR, Kunal, please let me know, because Madhu has said, sir, it is livelihood is the priority, he says. Please let me know. The others, please key in so that, okay, Nikita also says that livelihood. Kunal, please let me know your stand. What do you feel that at this moment the priority should be livelihood or lives? Livelihood or lives? The one who have joined also can go ahead. Life is okay. Esther Vatana has joined. She says life is more important. Very good. So there is a different answer here. Very good in the sense I'm not saying that is right. Malvika Sajivan has also joined. Good afternoon, good evening to both of you, Esther and Malvika. And then Malvika says that livelihood is the important, and then Esther says life is important. You can take it any stride. It is not that whether it is livelihood or lives, because if you look at, both are important. But what I feel is the government will focus on the lives first and then the livelihood. Both are important. I'm saying both are important. You all are right. Both are important. But first and foremost is the government will focus on the lives and then the livelihood, because the lives have to be protected. Public health has to be taken into consideration. If the lives are not protected, then the livelihood would be hit badly. And the other point is, now I'll go to the other side of it, because whoever has said livelihood is important, I will also say that you are right. I will also say that you are right, because see, look here, this point, this second point, please do understand here, this second point, wherein the government has to provide livelihoods, this one. If the government is not providing livelihood, please do understand this one, the second point here. If the government is not providing livelihoods, then without jobs, without or with unemployment, when the migrant workers or the informal sector employees and unorganized sector employees, when they are sitting at home without any job, please understand, without any job, but they have lives, I mean they are still living, but these are the one who are not infected by SARS-CoV-2. They are the one who are well healthy one, but they are starving because of no food, because of hunger. They are starving, and they might also lose lives because of hunger. Please to understand here, if the government is unable to provide the livelihood because of the what is the consequences of the national lockdown, no employment, because of no income, there would be hunger, and because of the hunger there would be, I mean there might be chances of loss of lives. So you are healthy, you are not infected by pandemic, but because the government is or government hasn't provided livelihoods at the right time, please understand, hasn't provided livelihood at the right time, so that might cause or that might take lives, because they are, what do you say, starving, and because of the hunger they have lost lives. So it all depends upon how you write your answer and how best you can substantiate your answer. Here both are, if you look at from each point of view, lives are important, livelihood is important, but what is the priority? That is what I said, how the government will go ahead with lifting of the national lockdown after 3 weeks, whether it would, and that is a strategic exit, I said, strategic exit. So what constitutes the strategic exit? Whether they consider lives along with livelihood, please understand, whether the strategic exit constitutes, that is the strategic exit policy, please do understand, strategic exit policy, whether it constitutes lives along with livelihood, or lives is the top priority now, as of now, and the next priority is livelihood gradually. So it all depends. So how the ICMR, Health Ministry, state government, state chief ministers are giving the data in regards to the spread of pandemic, spread of virus. Depending upon that, the lives versus livelihood will be taken into consideration. So this is very, very important, and good that you all have responded. Livelihood, Madhu said, Nikita said livelihood, Malvika said livelihood, and then Esther has said life is very important. In I mean, all your answers are absolutely right, but how best you substantiate is very important. How best you justify is very important in the mains. And these are the, what you say, livelihoods. Here, when I have taken, this is the livelihood, that is a sewing machine, and then again in regards to the, here it is also a livelihood, but what is important is, as we have discussed, whether it is life versus livelihood. Now we will get into the next editorial, which talks about stage fright. So what is this stage fright? What is the editorial, I mean editor talking about it? Why, or else there is any, is there any kind of discrepancy or kind of mismatch between the ICMR report and then with the what the health ministry is coming up with the statistics and data? We will look at it, whether there is any kind of mismatch between the ICMR, Indian Journal of Medical Research of ICMR, and the health ministry of its statistics or the records, whether there is any kind of kind of ambiguity, whether what kind of stage it is. So what stage we talking about here? It is the stage of the virus. That means, look at this this figure. You have four stages of pandemic. The first stage, you have stage 1, you have stage 2, you have stage 3, you have stage 4. And this is very, very important for prelims factual point of view in regards to the pandemic, wherein the question could be based on the, or else from the science and technology part of, and then there could be a question in regards to the match the following stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then the right side you will have the symptoms or the what is how the match the following. You can try to correlate it with the stage 1 to the left side and then to the right side. So stage 1 is the case, individual cases. Stage 2, what happens is the clusters, that is a group, it takes place. And then stage 3 is from the cluster it spreads to the community, and the stage 4 is from the community it spreads to the country. So this is what is important, you need to understand. When we are talking about pandemic, spread of virus, we are continually going on, and then we are saying the infections are increasing. But you as a civil servant aspirant, you need to also have a better understanding about how the UPSC might pose a question in the prelims 2020 on the backdrop of, or taking into consideration of the question from the science and technology. So you have the stage 1, which is an individual case, stage 2, which is a cluster, that is a group of people or the patients get infected, stage 3 it is the almost the particular locality or the community get infected, and stage 4 is the it spreads across the country, is very important. So that is what is in regards to, you need to understand about 4 different stages, wherein the editorial is talking about stage fright. And what is that stages, or which stage is in India as of now? You need to understand that, so that you will have a better understanding in regards to the prelims factual question if it is asked in the prelims 2020, and also you will have a better understanding in regards to the descriptive point of view from mains 2020. Now we will look at the stages of transmission. I have taken the heading as stages of transmission. So if you look at here, this is the virus, coronavirus, fine. And then this was from the wild animals. Please do understand. First, the coronavirus was from the wild animals, and then it has entered into the bats or various. First is the bats, and then when the humans started consuming the food, the virus has entered into the human body, and then later on it got direct contact to the human body or host. It entered into the human cell, that is the host. Once it has entered into the human cell, then the person or the patient who is healthy but not showing any symptoms is in contact with the community, fine. And then the virus is being spread by the one who is infected by the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, and then it is gradually spread to various other people, and then after a period of 11 to 12 days or 11 to 14 days, the symptoms of the virus gets has pops up, does pop up, and then the person get infected, and then he has to be admitted into the hospital. He or she has to be admitted into the hospital. So these are the, what you say, the phases of the transmission of the virus. So when we look at it, the health ministry has made a statement that there is a limited community transmission. Please do understand here, limited community transmission. See, look at here, we spoke about this third stage is community transmission. Third stage is community transmission. And what did the health minister say? He has said on March 28th, he has acknowledged in its website, health ministry website, that the kind of spread of virus in India is a limited one. Please do understand. He didn't go ahead with community transmission. He said it's a limited community transmission, but India's National Task Force for COVID-19 continues to deny it. So you have a task force which has been constituted by the Prime Minister, which is dealing with the spread of the virus. And then you have, even though the health ministry is going ahead with saying that it is a limited community, almost community transmission has taken place. That means India is experiencing the third stage. Please do understand the third stage of the pandemic, that is SARS-CoV-2. And a paper has been published by the Indian Journal of Medical Research. By Indian Journal of Medical Research. This is again important for prelims point of view. For prelims point of view, a paper is been published by ICMR. Please understand, it is again for prelims point of view. Indian Journal of Medical Research, which is under the purview of the ICMR, that is Indian Council of Medical Research and Health Ministry. So Indian Journal of Medical Research is under or by the ICMR and Health Ministry researchers. Both of them have gone ahead with the paper journal, and then it's very clearly evident by the paper that there is a community transmission. Please do understand this, that there is a community transmission in 36 districts in 15 states. So as per the paper or the journal that is based on the Indian Journal of Medical Research by ICMR and Health Ministry, both together they have conducted the journal, and then they say that there is definitely an evidence because of the survey or the research that the virus is now in India in the third stage, wherein it is the community transmission which is going up. That is why we have seen that the virus is spreading. The infected patients are spreading, increasing very fast. Because if you look at, a couple of days back it was 3,000, yesterday 4,000, today 5,000 it has crossed. 5,000 it has crossed. That is the infected patients, not the deaths. Infected patients has crossed 5,000 in India. So every day, if you look at average, 1,000 infected people's number is increasing. Thereby, it clearly shows, or else it is evident that there is community transmission which is taking place in regards to the spread of SARS-CoV-2, and that is a cause of concern to India. And if you look at the other point of is, that is, you have a task force, because here the task force is, we have said the task force is denying what the health ministry is talking about, that there is a limited community transmission. But as per the Indian Journal of Medical Research, they say it is evident that there is a community transmission. But you have one more, a study which has been conducted by the task force. Now they look at how we are trying to compare it. One is with the health ministry and the ICMR together, and the other one is the study by the national task force. So that is what you need to have a differentiation, how this study is being conducted, research is being conducted, how different organizations or else the ICMR along with the health ministry researchers are saying that this is the mode of transmission or the stage of transmission which is happening in India, but compare it with the task force, what kind of study is being done. Because this is again very important for prelims. For prelims, factual data information, factual question, this is very important. And as per the task force, you have a patient called as severe acute respiratory infection, that is SARI or SARI patients, not SARS, SARS, that is syndrome, this is infection. What is the difference between syndrome and infection? Can anyone please let me know? Because here it says that the task force it has gone ahead with the sentinel surveillance. Sentinel in the sense like you have the lookout, you go and check, and then there is a guard in the entire local community area, locality. They go check whether how many people are under infected, not syndrome, infected. And then they try to identify those people, and then they go ahead with the testing, and then they get back to the test laboratories, and then they test, and then if possible they go ahead with putting them in the quarantine. So what is the difference between SARS and SARI? SARI, that is also important for the prelims point of view. For the prelims point of view, when that is important, because do not get confused with SARS with SARA. No, it is not a typing error or keying error. SARS is the severe acute respiratory syndrome. SARI is severe acute respiratory infection. So infection is a single. Syndrome is in regards to many many kind of infections which are taking up, it is called as a syndrome. So when the SARS take place, that means it is infecting at a very faster pace, and then the infected person chances of being ill is very high. So based on the surveillance, this task force has conducted SARI who have been hospitalized in public sector institutions. So they have conducted the test or the study on the or taking into consideration of severe acute respiratory infection. That is what I am saying, infected patients. Each and every time I was saying the one who have been infected patients are different, syndrome is different. So whoever have been infected, the government has gone ahead with the test who have been hospitalized to identify whether how much of spread can take place in extent of the transmission, that is in regards to the community transmission. So based on the SARI test or the test which has been taken up by the SARI, by the task force, will give an identification or a kind of hypothetical situation that what is the extent of transmission, in the community. And then if you look at this SARI cases, you have the on April 2nd it was 40, that is 39% out of 102 coronavirus positive SARI cases. And then they have said that no travel history or contact with a positive cases. That means they are making it very clear that there is no any kind of more of community transmission which has taken place, because it is the task force which is denying the reports made by the home ministry that there is a possibility of the limited community transmission which is taking place, or wherein the India is in the third stage. And then when you look at the Maharashtra has the most number of positive SARI cases. Again, this is very important for the prelims point of view. Which among the following statement he can give, or else he can give one of the statement as Maharashtra has the largest number of positive SARI cases. Do not get confused that it has been typing error as SARS. No, it is the Maharashtra has a more number of corona positive SARI cases, prelims point of view. And then the next is Delhi, followed by Gujarat, and then West Bengal. And which is the one which has the lowest is the Kerala. And here I would also ask you a question again. A new therapy is now coming up in regards to the coronavirus, that is the plasma therapy. Plasma therapy. So ICMR has given approval to which among the following states in India to go ahead with conducting the plasma therapy? Anyone who has the answer, please let me know. These are the cases which are highest. First is Maharashtra, followed by Delhi, Gujarat, West Bengal, and the last is the Kerala. And now I have asked a question that there is a new concept or the new theory which is coming up in regards to the coronavirus or the COVID-19, that a plasma theory is coming up now, which could be a game changer. Plasma theory could be a game changer, and that is, oh, Malvika Sajivan has said Kerala. Very good, Malvika. Very good. It is the ICMR which has given approval to go ahead with conducting the plasma theory to the Kerala state. So what do you mean by plasma theory? Plasma theory is nothing but what it does it through this theory. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry. Plasma therapy, not theory. Extremely sorry. Therapy. So what the therapy goes ahead with? It will take out the plasma from the one who have been recovered patient. The recovered patient, from the recovered patient, the plasma would be recovered or it will be taken out, and in that plasma they will identify the antibodies, and those antibodies will be injected into the severely infected person. The plasma through the blood of the recovered patient, please do understand, the blood of the recovered patient And from, I mean, blood has what? Blood constitutes what? Plasma and WBC and then RBC. Blood constitutes plasma, WBC and RBC. And plasma is in yellow fluid color, which is almost 50 percentage. And that through the plasma, from the blood they will segregate the plasma, and from the plasma they will again segregate the antibodies from the recovered patient, and those antibodies will be transfused. Please do understand, those antibodies which are taken out from the plasma, recovered from a plasma which is from the recovered patient, infected COVID-19 patient, will be transfused into the severely ill patient who is on ventilator, and these antibodies will recover this ill patient. And this is a therapy, it is not totally, but China has gone ahead with this plasma theory, and then it has tested on 10 infected people, that is 10 infected coronavirus people, and then it was a positive result there. So the here when I was talking about the state which has given an approval in regards to the plasma theory is a Kerala. And then with community transmission, almost we have reached 36, or sorry, we have reached the third stage, which is almost the 36 districts. It has been expanded, and now what is important is there has to be expansion or change in the testing strategy. That is very important now, because we have reached the third stage. We cannot be lenient, we cannot take things for granted, because now the incubation period for the virus is now at the peak. Now the symptoms will come forward, or the infected persons will show the symptoms from the asymptomatic to the symptomatic, and now the chances of the virus spreading when he or she sneezes or coughs, it spreads very virulent, and then the possibility is that we need to go ahead with expansion, and then its strategy, change in strategy, in just going ahead with the testing strategy. So what is that? What the WHO chairperson Gebreyesus has said, we have to just follow 3 T's. What is that? Test, test, test. And what are the measures we need to look at? That we have to identify the hotspots or the clusters, and then make sure that there would be more of testing norms which has to be taken into consideration. Especially the testing has to be in regards to the high focus area, that is the hotspots, and then they have to test the people who are influenza like illness. Again, this is very important for prelims point of view. This is called as ILI. So the testing now has to be done on the hotspots, focusing on the high focus areas, and then testing to the people that is influenza like illness, and then antibody testing, as I was talking about the plasma theory, should be carried out whenever molecular test on these patients turn out negative. So whenever you go ahead with the test, many a times what is happening is when they go ahead with the laboratory test, the report comes positive. They are not negative. HIV, I mean, they are not positive, they are negative. But what happens is when they go ahead with the antibody testing, that means the antibody levels have come down. That means they are infected. So then it would be negative. Please do understand the point. When the molecular test is conducted, then the patients that turn negative, but actually they are symptomatic, but virtually they are showing asymptomatic. Within they are symptomatic, but virtually they look very healthy itself. But there has to be a antibody testing also. When the antibody testing take place, then the count of the antibodies we can understand. When it falls down, when the antibodies reduces, that means the person is infected. That means antigens count is increasing, and then antibodies count is decreasing. Please do understand. So that is antibody testing should be taken into consideration because of wherever you have the hotspots or the clusters areas. And then there had to be a containment measure. That means we have to make sure that we stop the or we break the transmission of the coronavirus. That is very, very important. And there has to be a syndrome surveillance, that is in regards to the SARI and ILI. What is SARI? Severe acute respiratory infection, and then ILI is influenza like illness. Influenza like illness. So whenever there is a symptoms like influenza like illness, so because generally what the normal cold is nothing but influenza, that is normal cold we say, that is influenza. Flu we say. So flu is nothing but from the word of influenza they have taken. I mean generally we use the word flu. So if it is flu like illness also, there has to be a test conducted. Only then we can understand that whether antibodies have come down by the testing of the antibodies. Thereby these are the measures we can make sure that there is a possibility of the virus being spread. And now we'll go to the last stage. We'll look at it for the benefit of all of you. That is, if it is asked in the exam, the different stages, as I said, like A and then B, then you would have a better understanding in regards to. So you have the stage 1 as we discussed in the first page, stage 2, and then stage 3, and then stage 4. Just we will look at it in a different way. So stage 1 is what? The imported cases. Please do understand here. If you have the match the following, you have the left side A and then right side B. Left side you have the stages, stage 1, stage 2 or stage 3, and then stage 4. And then right side you have this. That is why I am emphasizing this one. There could be a possibility in regards to the stages, because many of them are not focusing on it. And then the stage 1 is the imported cases, stage 2 is the local transmission, stage 3 is the community transmission, stage 4 is epidemic. Please do understand. If you have this on the right hand side or the left side, A, B, match the following. So here also now you have a solid, what do you say, analytical question in regards to the SNT. And in the imported cases, wherein the stage 1, the cases are the people who have traveled to foreign countries, and then when they have come back to India, there is a possibility that because of the incubation period from 12 to 14 days, they would slowly go ahead with symptoms or symptomatic cases comes up, and then slowly they come up with various symptoms of that they have been infected. And then the stage 2 is the local transmission, wherein the cases are those wherein the people who have come in contact with the one who have the travel history. This is again important. So stage 2 is the one wherein it is local transmission, but not within the country itself, but the one who has the travel history, who have come from the foreign countries, and they have infected the Indians who are healthy. And then the community transmission is the third stage, wherein we need to avoid, as there is no way the virus can be traced back to a certain person. That means from the stage 2, from the travel history person to the one who is a local or the Indian, I mean who is within India itself, within country itself, when it gets infected to the person, or it gets into the another person, then that case we cannot trace. The virus cannot be traced from where it is coming or how the virus is being, but it's moving or it is virulently spreading. We cannot trace. So that is very difficult. And when that happens, we are unable to trace. Then what is important is testing is important. That is why the need of the hour is now testing, testing, testing. As we have to, according to ICMR and then Health Ministry, that is the Journal of Medical Research, Indian Journal Medical Research, they have said that as we have entered into the community transmission, that is the stage 3, wherein 36 districts are affected. So now what is important is testing is very, very important, not just in regards to the molecular test, but also in regards to the antibodies test. And the stage 4 is the last stage. What we have seen that China has grappled with that situation wherein it will be out of control and then it would be total lockdown for the continuous. We have seen China was locked down for how many days? Anyone has the idea? 76 days. 76 days China was locked down. So that is not at all, what do you say, an accepted indication for India, because just for 2 weeks, even 3 weeks is not over, just for 2 weeks, look at the what we have discussed, L versus L or lives versus livelihood. It is tough for India to maintain all this. I mean, to provide livelihood for all, and then it will be very, very tough for India. So, we have discussed in regards to the lives versus livelihood, and then what are the measures we have seen, and then in regards to NBFC's credit guarantee, bankruptcy code has to be suspended, GST holidays has to be, what do you say, announced, and then we have looked at 4 stages, that is stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Here just case, cluster, community, country, and then we spoke about how the limited community transmission by the government was, health minister was saying, but the national task force was not at all accepting it, or it was denying it. And then you have this SARI, that is by the task force, which has taken it into consideration, that is called as the sentinel surveillance, that is called as the lookout. They get into the each and every community area and then they go ahead with the SARI, that is severe acute respiratory infection, who have been hospitalized in the public sector institutions, wherein through that they will understand whether the transmission is community transmission. And then we have seen Maharashtra being the highest in regards to the positive SARI cases, and then Delhi next, followed by Gujarat and West Bengal, and then Kerala has the least SARI patient testing positive. And then we have seen the plasma therapy also, the ICMR has given permission for the Kerala to go ahead with the testing. And then we have seen the community transmission, which is almost the 36 districts have taken place, and because of the community transmission at this junction, what is the need of the hour for the government of India is to make sure that they go ahead with the expansion and the change in the strategy of getting into the mode of testing strategy, that is test. They have to, we have to go ahead with more number of tests, and then we have to identify the hotspots, and then go ahead with even the influenza like illness testing, whoever have the symptoms, not just with the molecular test but also with the antibodies test, and then making sure that there would be many containment measures taking up, because as we are heading towards the third stage, that is community transmission. And then the syndrome surveillance of all, that is SARI, that is in regards to the severe acute respiratory infection and then influenza like illness has to be taken into consideration by tracing, quarantining and testing. And then we have seen the stage 4, that is stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Imported cases stage 1, local transmission is considered as a stage 2, community transmission as stage 3, and epidemic as stage 4. So these are the one which are very, very important for prelims 2020 point of view. And also we have gone ahead with analytical point of view, which would be useful while you are writing the mains answer. So I hope that this was a very good information, and then the you were all equipped with more of analytical questions for prelims 2020, especially in today's session. So please go ahead with liking the video, subscribe the video, hit the bell button when you're watching the Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. And if you haven't subscribed the Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, please do subscribe for 24 months using my code SBT10, that is Sandeep Bhushan Thummala 10, wherein you can get 10% discount, and then you would be paying just 13 months fees for the 24 months subscription. So take the benefit, take the opportunity, and then subscribe for 24 months. And I also request all the one who are watching, that is Madhu, Malvika, Sajivan, and then Esther, everyone, to be part of the download the Unacademy app, to download the Unacademy app, because once you download the Unacademy app, you can also be part of the special classes. Please do understand this. when you will download the Unacademy app, and you can also, without subscribing also, for some time you have the grace period. For some time you can also go ahead with listening to these special classes under the or on the Unacademy platform. So please make sure that you download the Unacademy app, and then you can be part of the special classes for a given grace period of time. So please do take the benefit out of it. And also, if it's for, if you think that rather than special classes you can go ahead with a subscription, so please go ahead with subscription for 24 months. And do not forget to use my code, that is SBT10, Sandeep Bhushan Thummala 10. And then if possible, if you can also download, I reiterate my statement once again, download the Unacademy app, and then you can be also be part of the special classes. So thank you, see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you very much.